Martin Kilcoyne on KTRS.
Marty Show coming up top of the hour. John back in studio from 1 until 3. We're wrapping up a Thursday remote here. Encore consignment, West County on Clayton Road. We are just west of 141. Thank you to the Country Club right next door, bar and restaurant, stopping by, bringing over some great food. And we're in the neighborhood of my alma mater. You hear me talking about CBC all the time. So I always think when we're on remote, who is nearby and who doesn't really do anything all day? So that's not true. No, that's not true at all. The director of communications at CBC High School, Patrick Walsh, is with us, and the assistant principal. You hear me talk about him because he's the director of admissions, too, the admissions team, and that's Jim Brockman, and they join us here. Thanks for being here, guys. And I'm kidding, of course. What are you doing this time? Admissions, it's not the exciting time, but it's an important time.
Yeah, Martin, this for us is a time when we're starting to wrap up. We're currently receiving applications, so a lot of the visits are slowing down, but we have people touring. I had a family in yesterday. So that'll continue to go on. This whole process is kind of different from when we were doing it. So we'll continue to get kids come and shadow throughout the second semester, all the way up until the start of school.
So when I always talk about the shadow program, so that's not over. I mean, if your son's in 8th grade, or especially 7th grade, but say, hey, you know what, we're on the fence, or we put in some paperwork, maybe we want to come back out.
Yeah, we got 2 days next week, for example, and then we start back up in January. We'll have another probably 50 students who will come and shadow in the second semester with us.
You know, and if it's a really smart kid, that shadow can maybe take a test, Patrick. No, I'm kidding. We would not allow that to happen.
Back in my day, I may have asked him for that, but CBC, upstanding academic institution. No way.
Of course. Kidding about that. Let's talk about the auction this Saturday. And I mentioned to our listeners, certainly a lot of alums will go. Dan Buck has hosted it for many years, wearing a cape for some reason as the auctioneer. I don't know why, but it works. It looks good on him.
He's always putting on a show. We had I think he came out on a Segway last year. So the drum line leads him in. It's a big production. We always have a lot of fun at the auction.
Yeah, and obviously it's huge for alumni, but also I said if you want to just kind of get in the Christmas spirit, but you like buying stuff and getting a deal, I mean, some of the bigger items too. We have Cabo San Lucas,
that's right.
Trips to Florida.
Great trips. You know, you're here at the consignment spot today. Great deals in here. Jim and I are walking around shopping a little bit.
We're looking for the misses. Yeah,
we're getting some good ideas here at Encore.
Is incredible.
And same deal at the auction on Saturday at CBC. Big items, big trips. You're talking about Cabo San Lucas, a week in Vegas, a week down in Sanibel Island, and a beachfront condo. We've also got Winter Classic tickets, green seats to Cardinals games, home opener tickets for the Cardinals Cubs. So great stuff in town, great stuff out of town. And there's also those smaller items, too. We do a silent auction that has things, you know, as
last time I was there, I think there were 5,000. No,
there's a lot of items.
There are hundreds of items.
Absolutely, yeah. And everything's online this year, actually, too. So even if you're not coming Saturday night, people can log on, open an account, and it's right there at cbchs.org. Click the auction tab, and it'll take you right to our site. It's run by a company called Gestures, and people can bid at a distance. So it's online bidding as well. Everybody can get in on the fun this year.
And this year's focus, a lot of the fundraising, that's what it is. It's about the fine arts program. We talk a lot about athletics. We talk about academics, but the fine arts program, you don't want to overlook.
Yeah, the fine and performing arts program is really second to no program at CBC. I mean, we were talking right before we came on about Tom Murray. Tom Murray's been at CBC now for 38 years. He's directed 125 shows at CBC. So we felt like what better way to celebrate Tom Murray and celebrate the Fine and Performing Arts Department itself than to have the auction be all about the Fine and Performing Arts. So one of the items that Patrick failed to mention, of course, was a saxophone signed by Kenny G. It's going to be probably the hottest item going.
Wait a minute. Oh, that's a little personal. He stiffed Carney last week.
Oh,
so
no.
I don't know.
Take that back.
Now we know where he was. He was signing a sax for you guys.
To be honest, I was trying to keep that under wraps. I'm bidding on that one myself.
Yeah, so please. I mean, that's it. It's going to be live performances. We've got students from our theater department doing live performances. We've got musicians, singers, dancers. I mean, it's going to be incredible. But it's a celebration of our Fine and Performing Arts program, which again you mentioned. You know, people understand that we have great athletics, and we're really proud of those guys. Our Fine and Performing Arts program is second to no.
I didn't even realize. So there's an a cappella group. I
Brothers
knew about
in
the
Harmony.
drum line.
Yeah, drum line. We've got 3 levels of band. Obviously, our theater program, we're doing 5 shows a year. We've got Grease coming up. We have tryouts for Greece coming up next week, so auditions will be over the next 2 weeks. So that's going to be a huge show. So we're really excited.
CBCHS.org, more information. The auction is this Saturday. And again, it's a fundraiser for my alma mater, but also it's a fun event. And just to see Dan Buck in a cape, okay, it's worth going. As far as the school, the leadership program, we've mentioned in the past some of the speakers that come in. What was the genesis for this particular program?
8 years ago, and we knew that this was something that could be a game changer for CBC. And so along with Principal Tim Seymour, a group of us kind of sat down and said, how can we become more intentional about teaching our students leadership skills? So, for example, I don't know if you're a juggler or not, Martin. Are you a juggler?
I juggle a lot of things.
Yeah, so if I were to tell you to juggle
I've got some candy
let's
here.
see
Let me try. We have
see
three. These are peppermint candies, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, the oh my gosh, he's got a 3.
Okay.
Okay,
that was pretty lame.
The guy's an athlete.
He is an athlete. If I were to tell you to juggle, all right, without ever having studied what it takes to be a great juggler and then practicing it, you're probably not going to be very good at it. So the same thing is true with our students. All right, if you don't empower them to study what it takes to be a great leader and then let them practice it, they're not probably going to be great leaders. And so we've put a ton of emphasis on those two things: being intentional about studying leadership and then also practicing leadership.
And the guest speaker program, too, where people come in and then they kind of hear it from those who've done it.
That's right. We give our guys the foundations they need and the understanding they need, and then we connect them with people in industry and around our city and really around the nation who have been extremely successful in their chosen fields. Folks here locally like Maxine Clark, David Stewart, Dave Peacock all come in every year, talk to our guys. They're invested and committed to our leadership program. We're thrilled with that. Jim does a great I'll kick it over to him to talk about
but is it a class? It's not like an after school. It's not you're on the club.
That's right.
Yeah, so we actually have 3 different classes that a student can take at CBC. So we've got our Foundations of Leadership class for our freshmen. It's introducing them to the concept of intentional leadership. We also then have a class for our juniors, and that's where they actually get to meet and interact with these people who have done some really great things. Dave Peacock was in a couple weeks ago and was just incredible with the guys, and incredibly forthcoming and willing to talk about the Rams with the guys. The guys obviously had some really cool questions about that. And he was very honest with them. He talked about the MLS project. So it was just really cool to see him interact with our students and talk about lessons of failure, and things didn't go the way we wanted it to go. But I've learned a lot. It was really cool to hear Dave talk to the guys. So we've got our freshman year class.
Dave talks about the Rams without the F-bombs that I include when I speak publicly about the NFL and the process. I've said it before. The Rams, that actually is a 4-letter word, Rams. It is. It fits.
There's, again, there were a lot of strong feelings in the room as well. But Dave was, he was an incredible gentleman about it, very respectful to the organization, but also very direct.
He shoots them straight. And
he does.
The inside baseball that these folks give our kids is really incredible. Dave was in before the MLS announcement came out, and our kids walked out of the room being like, "Hey, I think
this is going to happen.
I think we're getting an MLS franchise."
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for calling. Thanks for that tip. Right?
Rule number 1: what's said in leadership stays in leadership.
It's just like Fight Club.
Fight Club, exactly.
This is off topic. We're talking football, sports.
Whatever.
Patrick's uncle Joe Walsh, head of security for the St. Louis Cardinals for many years. Is he done now? Is that it? Did he retire?
He's moving toward retirement. He's going to start next season with the club and help kind of bring the new guy up to speed. I don't know that they know who the new guy is yet, but come next middle of April, he'll be done with the Cardinals.
I just like having him in my phone because people are like, who is that? I'm like, it's Joe
Uncle
Walsh.
Joe.
Yeah, it's
Joe Walsh.
But your dad worked for the football Cardinals.
That's right.
And you grew up in Arizona, right?
That's right. I was
born in St. Louis?
Born here. I was here until second grade. We moved to Arizona in 1988.
Part of the move, okay.
Yeah, that's right. So my dad was part of the front office team that took St. Louis's first football team away from him.
Thanks.
I'm going to have a rough time getting out of here.
He works
today.
at the Smet.
No, but my old man had a great career with the Cardinals. Couldn't be more thankful for it. But he also he knows some of those boardroom, those front office stories about that first transition, about how the club. We all saw the scoreboard. They struggled for their first decade and a half out in Arizona, and I lived and died with that team every day and every year.
All the games were in Tempe. It was weird, too.
That's right.
I mean, they went there for a new stadium, and then they didn't get one for like 20 years.
Yeah, we were borrowing a stadium, and so watched all those games in Sun Devil Stadium with a crowd that was about a third full, something that the Rams, I think, are going through right now out in California.
Well, Patrick Walsh, Director of Communications, and then Jim Brockman, Assistant Principal, Director of Admissions at the alma mater for myself, for John Carney. I don't know. You guys always say don't mention that. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's just
kidding,
mention John Carney.
CBCHS.org. More information. Again, the auction is coming up this Saturday. Guys, thanks for coming by.
Thanks Martin. Thanks for having us.
The neighborly thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
Just like the country club dropping off food.